Chris Hensley is a registered representative of Cambridge Investment Research, Inc., a broker-dealer member of FINRA SIPC, investment advisor representative of Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Cambridge and Houston First Financial Group are not affiliated.
The Houston Midtown chapter of the Society for Financial Awareness presents Money Matters with your host, Christopher Hensley.
Good morning, everybody. You're listening to Money Matters on KPFT Houston. I'm Chris Hensley. The time is now 11 a.m. Got a great show lined up for you today. We have with us Joshua Santana. He is with Cerboni Financial Solutions, which is a company here. We're going to do a deep dive into the company that he has and kind of what they do. As if it's a entrepreneurship talk, but it is also having to do with Houston hospitality restaurants in the area. So we're going to have a very Gulf Coast feel here, and do a deep dive into what exactly it is that Josh is doing in this area. So please stay tuned. Keep listening. If you are a longtime listener, you know that we always reserve just the first few minutes of the show to tell you a little bit about what's going on in the Houston and the Gulf Coast area when it comes to financial literacy. So we did finally make it through Houston Money Week. That was in April. And each and every episode you've heard us build and build up until we get to April, Financial Literacy Month, and here locally in Houston, it's Houston Money Week. All of those events have been completed out. However, we do have nonprofits and for-profits that are constantly out there doing financial literacy classes, so we would still encourage you to go to the website, HoustonMoneyWeek.org. I know, like Women's Resource Center, they are constantly running financial literacy seminars and educational workshops all the time, as well as many of our other nonprofits. So I know last year it was more of like a static calendar where we would put it in there. This year we have made some modifications on the website, so you can at any time log in there, put your zip code in there, and kind of see what's going on in the Houston community when it comes to financial literacy and educational workshops. We did have our final closeout meeting last week, which I wasn't able to attend. I hate to say, I got busy at work there, but from what I've seen, it was a great event. Paul Wall, local Houston rapper Paul Wall, was there, and we had a contest where the winner actually got to meet Paul Wall, and so I hated that I wasn't able to see that, but I got the pictures through email, and all of our partners and leadership team and everything was there. Other than that, as far as workshops and seminars, I did have a workshop last week for Texas retirement system or teacher retirement system. So all of the UT healthcare employees, University of Houston, Houston Community College, MD Anderson, they are all up under the state pension. And so we had a seminar that was at Saltgrass, where we were talking about the coordination of Social Security and the state pension. So we will have a few more of those this last quarter before the end of the year. I think we'll do one Social Security talk as well. So stay tuned. Keep listening on that. With that, let me go ahead and turn Josh's mic on, who is right here looking at me, and he is live in the studio. Welcome. Thank you for coming to the show.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Absolutely. So go ahead and tell me a little bit about, usually what I'll do right at the beginning is read your bio to the listeners so that they can get to know you a little bit more, but I'd like you to kind of share a little bit about yourself.
Sure, yeah. So born and raised in Houston, Texas. Been here my whole life, and graduated from University of Houston, College Bauer. And just been in the accounting industry, tax industry for about 13 years.
So that's interesting, because I know a lot of people getting started in accounting. Accounting is a very broad category there. You can do a lot of different things with it. But with your company now Cerboni, tell me a little bit about this and what you're doing currently.
So Cerboni helps businesses and owners spend less time in the office worrying about their accounting and financial aspect of the business and focus their attention to their clients and staff in order to manage and make necessary decisions in order to have a better financial make more money, I guess we can say.
Absolutely. You can say that. That's not a bad thing. So one of the things that kind of piqued my interest in this when you guys reached out to me was that the niche that you're in. Who do you work with primarily? Who is this a good fit for?
So it's going to be restaurants, hospitality, hotel management, those types of businesses where we're able to help and create a better avenue, better aspect for them, and long term and better of a financial result, not necessarily on the tax return, but also at year end, also in profit, the financial statements, and also in the profit and loss, having a better balance sheet, being able to say, hey, I made more money this year.
Right. And that's difficult, I know, for many, specifically restaurant owners. You mentioned the hospitality industry. What pops into my mind is as a financial advisor, when I first got started in the industry there, I reached out to a local Mexican food restaurant. And this guy had been doing this for years, and one of the things he talked about was how hard it was to get bulk rates and discounted rates and that sort of stuff. So they developed kind of a co-op between the different Mexican food restaurants. This was back in the 70s that he first started getting that. So when I heard that the accounting stuff and the idea that there's things that they can do that will end up saving them money when they're doing it more efficiently. And
so yeah, we pride ourselves on detail, itemizing everything. So many restaurant owners or many businesses, they don't categorize or itemize everything correctly. A great example of one of our clients is overtime and employees, also in purchasing. So we have a client where they purchase, let's say, a disposable. And in the disposable, 1 month they put the expense as a disposable expense, and the next month they put it as supplies, restaurant supplies. So when you're getting the profit and loss, you're able to know where the expense is going. So if he has it all together and we want to know the cost, you're not going to be able to know the actual figure because he has it mingled. Having it mingled doesn't give you the right numbers at year end or monthly. And also, we also look at employees. And employees, so you have an employee who's working too much overtime. It would be much more efficient and better for the restaurant owner or for the business to say, hey, let me hire someone else at a starting rate than pay overtime for an employee where it's not necessary. So this is little things where we focus our attention on, where we look, where a majority of our clients don't necessarily focus their attention because they're just worrying about the business. They're focusing on the clients, they're focusing on the quality of the food, they're focusing on a broader aspect. Accounting in most of our clients is maybe one of the last things they look at or worry about because they just think about taxes. So, it's year end, I'm going to put it off till December or January when that time comes. But in reality, you should be focusing it on weekly, monthly, seeing where the errors are coming, where we can fix, where we can maybe make an adjustment to make a financial response, to have a financial response at that moment.
So I'm going to put an asterisk here because then, as a financial advisor, anytime I say anything about taxes, my compliance department's only happy when I put a asterisk and say I'm not a CPA. so when we cross that boundary, say that for educational purposes, but with that being said, it is a fact that taxes are extremely important to individuals as well as small business owners. We talked about the hustle and bustle that's going on in the restaurants. Mm-hmm. The taxes become the last thing that they want to sit down and think about. However, the difference between having something itemized correctly and getting the right deduction for it as opposed to the wrong deduction can really save them money and make things easier for them. You also talked about employees that are working overtime and how that's classified, and so this is super important and something that should be on their minds. Even if there's that procrastination, they don't want to think about it until the end of the year when it's time to put their taxes together. But if you wait that long, there may not be anything that you can do about it.
Right.
So being proactive, you said looking at this, the reporting, having real time where you're able to see it on a monthly basis. So let's kind of shift for a second and talk about, I know anytime somebody starts a business, their business is kind of like their baby. It's super important to them. Why did you decide to start this business?
So we started to start this business because we saw a lack. We saw a lack on owners, managers, people handling the accounting portion, not doing things efficiently, not being able to have the knowledge, because it does take knowledge to know the assets, the balance sheet, all this stuff that we need. And we saw a lack that they're not getting the help in this sector. So me and Maria say, hey, we have the background, which is Maria. She's her background is in restaurant. Her background's in management, hospitality. So she knows the front of the house, back of the house. She knows broad spectrum. My area in this is the accounting. So I'm an EA. Mm-hmm. So then we teamed up together and say, hey, we believe we can help people. It's like maybe have a better year end, maybe have a better month, because there's many times where restaurants or businesses close, not necessarily because they don't have the clientele, but maybe because they're not making the right financial decision, the purchasing. Maybe they're buying too much at a time, maybe they're buying at the wrong price, and which is something that we can help because of our knowledge and because of the people we, I guess, associate ourselves, and because Maria knows and I know many vendors and people that can help. We're able to create that for them.
So one of the things that anytime you niche into a certain market, and this is with the hospitality and with restaurants, there are things, patterns that you see, very specific things. You're the finance guy, but it's important to bring Maria in because she's got the background with the restaurant, and so she kind of knows what those things, those patterns that have happened over her experience being a restaurant owner, and it's kind of the marriage of those two things in this business. I like that aspect of it. What are some things that you can tell that would help business owners in the hospitality industry?
I would say the most important thing is categorizing, itemizing detail. Like that previous example that I had mentioned, being able to look at a number and know that that expense or that profit that you have is accurate. Because if you're mixing and mingling expenses, then there's going to be a problem. You're not going to have the correct financial respect. So it's really important. The best advice I can give is really important to have everything itemized for the reason of knowing the correct number and not knowing just a number. Super important. I mean, even with the financial planning that I do, it's garbage in, garbage out. If you don't put in the correct information on the front end, the integrity of the reporting or is questionable. So being able, you mentioned, to categorize, to really get down into the detail and the weeds of what are these expenses. Let's talk about when you started the company, Cerboni. What's been your biggest accomplishment since the beginning? I would say helping the clients that we have. I see a big result and a big thank you. It's super important to us to have a result. We're not here just to just do work and not have a result. We want you to help the owners, the business owners, restaurateurs, to know that there can be a change. If you're doing something the same all the time, it might be working, but change is good. Change is going to create a different aspect, a different avenue for growth. You need, in order to have growth, you need change. And so then we've noticed, and our clients have noticed, with the change that we've created for them, it's become a help, a great deal of revenue, different types of source of ideas. It creates a broad spectrum for them. How does that look? Because I know with business owners, they're so busy that being able to take some of this stuff off of their plate has to be a relief for them. What does that look like when you've been able to help
your clients?
Time. So time is precious to everyone. So when you're a business owner, you try to do everything yourself, which is, I guess, logically, you want to try to do everything yourself because it saves time. Well, you think it saves your time, think it saves you money, and in the end, it's eating up all that. In the end, it's taking all your money and it's taking all your time. Myself, I believe if you outsource or give us the work, we're able to do it at a quicker and more effective than if you were to do it. Because it's, let's say, a business owner, not too savvy on accounting, or maybe they're really good in accounting, or maybe they're not. It's time. It's also knowledge that it's going to take, because tax and changes every year. It's not something where it's going to be consistent. So it's something where we pride ourselves in the knowledge in order to keep up with all the federal regulations, in order to keep up with all the pricing, and it's something that takes away from the owner. And it gives them time, and it gives them more time to the employees, to manage more to their customers, because in the hospitality and restaurant industry, that's one of the key things, is their employees and their customers, their clients, the people coming in. So we believe it's super important to bring in the money. You take care of bringing the money, which is the clients, and you let us take care of how to bring you a good financial perspective on your business, and maybe make some changes if necessary.
Houston is one of the food capitals of the world. We have some of the best restaurants in the entire country, if not the world. I think I can make a good argument for that.
Definitely.
But if you walk into any restaurant at noon, at lunchtime, and you look at how busy they are, time is a super important thing for that owner, for that business owner, and to be able to kind of offload some of this stuff and delegate it. You mentioned the tax code. Every year there are so many changes to the tax code. As a financial professional, I can't keep up with it. I have to have outside resources kind of give me the Cliff Notes version. Okay, here's the changes. So imagining your business being something that you have to devote full time, like restaurants or hospitality industry, and then being expected to keep up with that and make any proactive changes before the end of the year, probably not going to happen if they don't have somebody kind of raising their hand and saying, hey, you need to do it this way, you need to do it that way. So super duper important there. What's been the biggest challenge as a business owner?
Challenge as for the business owner, I would say, is time. I would say time is the biggest issue, because once you're a business owner, there's multiple things things that may take up your time, such as family, because people want to make time for their family. The restaurant never stops. Hospitality industry never stops. There's always going to be something going on. So one less thing to worry about gives you a little bit of additional time, maybe to spend with the family, or actually maybe take a vacation, because we all need that R&R. And so then one less thing to worry about, and actually know that it's being done correctly, and not having to second guess, or maybe, if I did this wrong, I need to redo everything in order to have everything correct. It's a one-time thing. You come to us, we figure it out, we do all the numbers, and you have more time to delegate, more time to spend with family. I would believe that's the biggest thing where we can help and resolve, is give you more time.
So that's huge, having that time back to be able to do the things that you like to do, like family or take vacations. All of that is huge. It's not, when you're a business owner, you're essentially juggling plates. It never stops. I think we even have some 24-hour restaurants here in Houston that literally never stops. They are always going and going. So being able to sit down and do something when it comes to the taxes proactively is really, really huge. What advice do you have for entrepreneurs specifically in the hospitality industry?
Biggest thing that I can advise in the hospitality industry is going to be knowing, like you had mentioned, if you put in trash in, it's trash out, right? So knowing where all these numbers and all the financial comes in is super important. And a big question that I also get all the time is, where did the money go? At the end of the year is like, I say, you made this much money, or say, hey, I made this amount, but I have no idea where it went. So that's a huge question on knowing where the money went. Every year, I always get the same question on new clients saying, hey, I have no idea. I made so-and-so amount, and where did it all go? And they have a financial statement that says it's just numbers. It doesn't give them any information until we go into details like, oh, you spent too much here. Oh, this is where all your money went, and you're not even getting paid, and you need to give yourself a salary. You need to do this. We need to juggle differently. We need to make a financial plan for you. So to give you financial power, in order to know all these numbers, you need somebody to guide you. Because if you're just looking at a piece of paper, financial statement is like, oh, at the year end, it says I made so-and-so amount. I had a profit. Okay, what does that mean? In reality, it means nothing. It just made you made some money. Right. But if you want to know, can I add a new kitchen? Can I add a new employee? Then maybe you need to know the numbers on how much you're spending on payroll. You need to know how much you're spending on marketing. You need to know how much you're spending here in order to make that financial purchase. I would say that's super important.
I see with business owners, especially when they get started, there's two decision points there, and at some point, is this you mentioned about having a profit. Is this a profitable business? And it's not a question you could just answer without information, and having the correct information to go back and take a look at these patterns where they're spending. You talked about purchasing earlier. Well, if they're not able to tell you where the money went or where it's going, maybe they're overspending somewhere. Yeah. Maybe they're not even taking an owner's draw or paying themselves, or maybe they're financing the business themselves instead of, all of these things you can extract from the actual numbers that you see, the patterns that you see. If they're spending too much, that's something you can tell from being able to track these expenses and see all of that.
Definitely. And also just to interrupt a little bit, is assets. I think assets is the biggest thing, because sometimes when we go to the tax preparer, you ask around, because I get that a lot. Oh, I asked my buddy and he said we can do this, and that might not be the best answer, but people ask around. It's up to you. But the biggest thing is assets, on how to expense assets, because of course you have to depreciate the asset, but then there's also a 179 where you can accelerate the asset and you're able to take a bigger deduction that year. Or maybe that's not the way you should go, because maybe you're doing well enough in order we can depreciate the life longevity of that asset, and you'll be okay. Maybe you just need to buy a little bit more assets because you have that purchasing power. But I would say, depending on your term or what your goal is for the restaurant, because we have some restaurant owners, or we have some businesses that their end goal is to sell the business, not necessarily keep it. So to give you a better result, we know your plan, your strategy, and we're able to figure out how we're going to maneuver, or how we're going to give you a good end result. So I think assets is a super important thing to know, on how much assets you have in order to expense or depreciate, because I get a lot of confusion on depreciation. There's like, oh, but I bought it all, I paid it off. Shouldn't I be able to expense it all out? Yes, but is that the right maneuver to do?
So you didn't beat up on them as much as I'm going to, but the people who take the advice from the brother-in-law or the friend or the guy at the gym next to you on the treadmill, these are not the best sources of financial advice.
No, and they seem so secure when they tell me, it's like, my friend or my barber, told me that you could do this. And I'm like, even for me, it's like, oh, they sound so convincing, but I know you can't do it. And so I was like, no, you can't. And then even sometimes they might be a little hard with me. It's like, oh, I got to pull up a reg, or, I got to pull up, something from the IRS saying, no, you can't do it. And they're like, oh, man, he told me wrong. So, it's something that we have to take time in order to inform the client, which is good. Knowledge is power. Right. And so then they're able to know what they're supposed to do and not do.
Right, instead of it being a guess or a good intention from a friend or something like that. And then you also talked about the assets, and that's super important, those decision points that you have to make as to whether to take the deduction right up front, or if you're doing successful, you can kind of tell and see if you can take it over years, but that's something that you guys can step in and give them guidance. I love that business model. Where do you see your business in 1 year out, 5 years out? Where are you going with this?
So 1 year, definitely we want to expand in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
That's our goal. And within 5 years, we'd love to expand to different cities, Dallas, Austin. We want to help as many as people as possible, because everybody needs help. Not everybody's going to know everything. And so then we're here to extend our knowledge.
So really, this is starting here in Houston, but ultimately expanding in the state.
Definitely.
Do y'all have? Do you have the ability to have clients from outside of Texas?
So we can, because with electronic, paperless, everything is via email, scan, send. We're able to do this. We even have the process where 1 day shipping. With UPS, we're able to send you a prepaid package, and then you return us all the information. We're able to put it online, because our system, we're able to input everything on the system, and you're able to see it online whenever, 24/7. So it's super simple nowadays, because everything is almost paperless. We try to.
We're getting there.
Yeah, we're getting there.
We're trying. So before I forget here, now for somebody, we're going to have this on the podcast notes. So if you're driving right now, you don't have to stop and get a pen out. You can always go to the podcast and look to the site. But if they want to find out more about your company, Cerboni, and then about the software or the service, where would they go to find that information?
Well, they go to www.cerboniservices.com, and there you can find all the information you need, our address, our telephone number, also additional resources that you may have some questions on. Shoot us an email.
Perfect. And so, as I mentioned earlier, it's going to be on the podcast notes, so you'll have a link to that as well. We're closing. We're getting towards the end of the show. Got just a few more minutes here. 5 years. So ultimately, that 1 to 5 years. Where do you see yourself 5 years, 10 years out?
Growth. So different cities, multiples. Maybe next state, Louisiana. Almost, hopefully, all over the United States. That would be really nice. That's the dream. And we just growth. We also have a social media. I just wanted to add that.
Oh yeah, that's perfect.
So Facebook, Instagram. So we're on there. I know a lot of people just all day, every day on that Facebook, Instagram. So we make that accessible also.
Absolutely, absolutely. What have I forgot to ask you that you would like our listeners to know?
I'd like to also mention that our company, we're multilingual. So I'm a Spanish speaker, English speaker. Maria, she knows French, she knows Spanish, she knows English. So we know we're in Houston, and Houston is a melting pot. So multicultural, we're able to help all people, everybody. So it's not just one specific area or one specific business or a specific person. We're here to help all. So we make our services ready and available. Yeah.
So that's a plus. That's definitely a plus. And we get more listeners internationally than we do locally here in Houston. So you might have some calls from people outside of Houston as well. And that multilingual is huge. Did you see yourself doing this business when you were prior to going this route, when you were studying accounting? Did you see yourself doing this?
So at a younger age, I actually wanted to be a basketball player.
Yeah.
I grew up in the era of Michael Jordan. He was like a superstar. So I wanted to be a basketball player, but it wasn't until ending high school I was like, the accounting field was my to-go, my we'll say, passion. I like the accounting, the knowledge of the numbers. And it's hard to hear many people say, "Oh, numbers, I don't like numbers." But it wasn't until after high school I was like, "Oh no, I think I need to focus more on what I really want to do in life," because in reality, basketball wasn't in there.
Now you're a tall guy. Nobody can see because we're here in the studio. I'm short, you're tall, but you can be the Michael Jordan of finance. That's okay.
There we go. Yeah.
Well, fantastic. Well, thank you for coming on, and we are right here towards the end. Let me know the website once again for people to find out more information.
So it's www.cerboniservices.com.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of Money Matters Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, visit us on the web at www.moneymatterspodcast.com. Drop us a line on SpeakPipe on the right-hand corner. It will receive any voicemails, questions, thoughts, concerns that you have about the show. In addition to this, we recently launched a Patreon campaign. Click on the Donate Now tab to hit the tip jar and find out what Patreon's campaign is all about.